Hey, so this part of this episode, we're going to be talking about migration, right?
Ev-
Important.
Everyone's favorite topic.
Right. And who do we have here, Amit?
So I'm the migration expert at JICS, as you guys all know. Yeah, I just sort of handle all things immigration wise at JICS, and hopefully get some good outcomes for our clients.
Right. So what happens in the migration part?
So we offer the end-to-end service. When a person comes to us and they initially have their sort of they're looking for their journey in Australia, how they're going to sort of first arrive here, how they're going to be able to have work rights here, and then working all the way through to obviously PR and citizenship is their goal on most of the occasions. But I think we do like to tailor our service and figure out what their actual needs are, whether it's sort of short-term work, long-term work, study, post-study work, or bringing family members across, and then sort of tailoring our services based on that.
So we work a lot with businesses and individuals both. So with businesses, we help them with their employee sponsorships and their workforce solutions. And with individuals, it's things like partner visa, parent visa, skilled migration. So yeah, we do anything and everything migration related, from simple cases to more complex appeals. And we like to cover all avenues.
Right. So some cases that come to us is a little challenging than the rest, right? Do you want to mention something specific, like a specific story or a case?
Yeah, of course. I think those are the cases where we sort of do most of our work, is when we have a person that's already might have already engaged another agent or might already be working on an application themselves, and they're having a bit of trouble with the process because unfortunately it isn't very user friendly, and it does require sort of an expert with that knowledge of and background ideas of lodging these applications before, the challenges that come with that, where an issue might arise, what the department is looking for in an application. We've obviously got that knowledge from doing, hundreds, thousands of these applications, and then we can apply that. So I see a lot of people that do come to us and they've lodged an application themselves, and there's been an issue. The department's come back looking for more information, and then we're able to sort of come in and provide that documentation, provide that guidance, and really help them get things back on track.
So I think one of the main things in immigration that we find is that people presume that if they do things logically, use their common sense, it's a simple process. And unfortunately, the world doesn't really work around common sense and logic most of the time. So you have to know how to play the game. You have to understand what they're looking for, and you need to provide the solution that is going to be suitable for that specific department, or that specific individual that's reviewing the application. So yeah, and that's where we find that we're spending a lot of our time fixing mistakes people have made. And from a normal point of view, it doesn't seem like a mistake, but to the department, it's a critical error. And we end up having to, spend hours fixing that error, basically.
See, migration is a complex process, right? There are so many procedures, steps, documentation that's required. So where we come in is we kind of simplify it. So, our role is to simplify it for our customer. Give him, s- small bits of information in terms of, what in terms of is required for him to provide to us, so that he's not overwhelmed, right? So that's what we break it down, for him, him to easily digest as to what is required. We give him time to get, certain pieces of documentation, because most of the clients, who are from overseas, especially from the subcontinent, the document process is not, isn't that streamlined for them to, so we kind of advise them as to, how to go about it, where to get the documentation done from, as simple stuff like even how to get a scan done. It needs to be correct. So that's where our guidance comes in, and that's what is required, because there's so many. We take care of the difficult part, right? We'll front end the department where, the right information needs to go, but we need to gather information. Gathering information is something which is critical, but it is also essential. And people at times really get overwhelmed with the kind of information that they're supposed to supply. So we ease it down to them.
Right. So, you know how like somebody says that, oh, I studied medicine and I'm a doctor, and then people just randomly ask you questions when you're about to leave your house or something. And ever since I joined JICS, like I get funny questions from my neighbors. Do you get something as such?
Oh, I can't tell you the amount of times where, you tell someone that you're an immigration expert and that you're working for, an immigration provider, and the questions you get. And it's really good to hear. And it also gives you a bit of an idea as to the information that's actually out there. And a lot of people aren't sure about what opportunities there are and what sort of their next pathways and what their next step is. And I think, if anything, it gives me even more of an idea that people really do need to come and find an expert that's going to set out a strategy for them.
What are the common questions you get?
The common questions are, I'm on this visa at the moment. I'm not sure what my next step is, and my next step is.
Like, how random would it be? Where do you get these questions?
Oh, anywhere. If I'm in the back of an Uber, or if I'm if I'm at a restaurant and I'm just talking to the waiter, or if any person you meet, you tell them you're an immigration expert. Or they'll tell you that, my friend is on a student visa and they're looking for what their next step is. And I think even in that 5-10 minute conversation I can have with them, you can really set them out just with a rough idea of this is what your next steps might be, and this is your strategy to sort of get to that PR or citizenship or whatever it is that you're looking for. So I think a lot of people out there do need that guidance, and reaching out to an expert, I think, especially in a matter as serious as your immigration and status here, is critical.
See, again, and there's a lot of information that's flowing, right? And people really get overwhelmed again with a lot of information.
And the change of information too, right?
Yeah, I mean, so they'll be hearing something on the social media. Their friends would be saying something. So I mean, there's a lot for them to kind of ingest and digest, and then and they don't have clarity as to what's the right pathway, what's the right path they need to choose. And that's where we come into picture, right? Wherein we kind of tell them the facts, tell them and then guide them appropriately. That's where we simplify things for them.
Yeah, I think, go on.
I think people are really looking for a strategy. People want to have that feeling that, yes, I might be on this visa at the moment, but I want to know what's sort of ahead for me in the next 3 to 5 years, right? My next visa is going to be this one, and then my next one is going to be something else after that. And they know exactly what work experience, what qualifications, what they need to do in the meantime to prepare all of that. I think as soon as people have that strategy in place, the tension comes down, they don't worry as much, and they know that sort of I've got this all. Well, it comes down a little bit. I'll say that much. It comes down a little bit from what it was before, when they sort of, unfortunately, they don't really have a plan as to what's going to happen past this next visa. Giving them that sort of surety that, there is a pathway for you that we've sort of looked at based on your tailored circumstance. They're a bit more relaxed after you've sort of talked them through that process.
Yeah, and I think the number of Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups on immigration is huge. And what happens is the government will announce something where there might be a new law coming out after 6 months, and suddenly that will get broadcast across all these groups, and people expect that law is now active and live. And most of the time the law never gets passed and things never really change. And so the amount of misinformation out there is tremendous. And I think talking to an expert and getting that clarity, like Amit said, is critical for each individual.
Yeah. And I think another thing I've seen a lot of, I'm a part of a lot of those groups just to get an idea of what sort of information is being put out there. And it sort of reminds me of a situation is when a person sort of attends a doctor's meeting, or they go to a hospital and they have a certain diagnosis, and then they sort of get a prescription or something to help them out with it. And then they sort of become a bit of a medical expert themselves and start giving medical advice to other people. I think it's very similar with immigration. I think a lot of people might have gone through a certain visa pathway or journey themselves.
And they think,
oh, I understand the entire immigration process now, and I'm going to give this advice to my friend and XYZ people on WhatsApp or Facebook. And it's not tailored to their specific circumstance. So it can lead to issues that way. I think each person has got their own goals, their own ideas, their own qualifications and experience. Your strategy has to be matched to what your particular circumstances are, right? As opposed to just a fix-all solution. Oh, this person did this, therefore I can just do this. No, your situation might be completely different, and you need to talk to a professional to get that idea of what my strategy is going to be.
And there's a whole group out there telling people that, oh, I did it myself. You don't need an expert guidance, right? How do you deal with such people?
Yeah, so I was telling a couple of people the other day that what happens is that if 10 people are doing it themselves, the 5 that do it successfully go and tell 100 other people, 500 other people that they've done it successfully. But the 5 that made a mistake and are into all sorts of trouble,
They're not loud.
they're not loud. They're not going to go and tell everyone. So that's where the misconception comes in. And that's where, then people have this false expectation because they're only hearing good things about people that did it themselves. But if you make a mistake, you're not really going to go and tell the whole world, isn't it? So that's where, we need to, but we get those people that make the mistakes because we're dealing with them every day. And trust me, there's a lot of them out there.
It's a nice thing that he just mentioned, right? It's a good point that he mentioned that the people who are successful in their migration journey are loud versus the people who made a mistake. They're just quietly going to seek an appointment, right?
That's exactly right. And that's the story I think that we see that, you don't see on those Facebook groups, you don't see on social media is
that I made a mistake.
Exactly. I made a mistake in this application and now I'm sort of having to go back and it's going to obviously create time delays. It's going to be a cost to it and there's going to be issues. It's not to say that we can't help. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to help in those complex situations where, the pathway forward might not be as easy as your friend who got a successful one. But we're here to sort of get you back on track and hopefully bring things into a good result, which we've been able to do in a very good amount of cases so far, which I've been pretty happy with.
Right. The thing that we were talking earlier that a lot of people with 485, they freak out last minute as their visa is running, and it has got something to do with both job search and migration, right? That they're like, okay, now my current job will not give me a sponsorship. What do I do? You get situations as such, right? Clients as such. So what happens? What do you suggest them?
So, as I was telling you previously, it's about, giving them the right advice and the right advice, if they're really running short on their validity, if you're on a 485 and your visa is expiring soon, you need to look at options, right? And for that, you need a professional guidance, right? And that's why we're here, right? We'll guide you. We'll inform you as to, what are your options. And that's what, Amit does on a day-to-day basis. We get so many cases like this where they're looking for sponsors. They really don't know how to find a sponsor, what to do. And that's where, or what could, their potential pathway be in terms of the next visa. So, we break it down for them and, Amit will, or Safa will give them advice appropriately as to, what options they can avail.
Right. And if we could go specific to some cases, I think recently we had a case of 186 where the previous lawyer had.
So a client approached us and they had a current pending 186 nomination and visa application, neither of which had yet been approved. They'd lodged it about 6 months ago and they just received a notification from the department that there was an issue with their employer nomination side of the application. Some of the documents which were provided by their previous immigration provider, there were some issues with the employment contract and a few other documents in there, and it raised some questions as to the genuineness of the position. Now, our team took a look at the situation and we gave a frank and full assessment to the applicant and to the business that, this is some of the issues that we've seen in our short review of this. And based on that, we need to resubmit most of these documents. We need to rework them, and we also need to then put submissions to the department explaining why that the issues were caused in the first place. Thankfully, we were able to put those submissions together, get the information all put together correctly within a very short turnaround time. I believe we had it all together in sort of 48 hours, and we were able to lodge that. And 1 week after that, we were able to get an approval on both the nomination and the visa. So I think that's one of the real sort of success stories that comes to mind when I think about the work we've done here at JICS. Being able to turn that situation around from someone who was looking to not have their PR considered at all to 1 week later having an approval, I think is a great result. Yeah.
And I think the number of clients that we work with that end up in tears when they get the good news of their visa has been sorted is immense, and that's where I think there's a lot of satisfaction that the team gets from being able to add value in that process, and especially like in this case where someone had almost lost complete hope of getting that result, and then we're able to turn that around. I think that's amazing.
Another thing is like very easy visas, like 485, right? It's so easy. I have like heard a lot of my friends having issues with that.
Not as easy as it appears. I think it goes back to what we were saying about how the people who do apply for it themselves and get it, they're very loud and let everyone know that yes, I applied for it myself and I got this visa. The other half of applicants who apply themselves and an issue comes up, we don't usually hear from them.
What are the common things that happen with the 485?
So it usually comes down to the submission of documents and the timing of those documents. So there are time of decision documents and there are time of lodgement documents that they have to provide. If those documents aren't provided at the right time, then it can lead to a refusal or it can lead to delays in the processing. That's a big thing I see, especially when it comes to the 485, is there's a lot of delays in the processing of those applications. People want to get their 485 and then start looking for jobs and then start having that certainty. And I think that a big issue is when people put forward applications that aren't complete, that aren't done the right way. They have a lot of delays in processing and they come to us saying, look, I lodged a 485 visa and it's been 5 to 6 months and I haven't heard anything. And straight away I know this person there's some documents missing or they haven't provided some of the correct documents. That's the reason it's taking so long to process. And, we take a look at the application and sure enough, there's 1 or 2 things missing. We let them know what it is. We submit those documents for them and 2 to 3 weeks later, the visa's approved. So I think that's one of the major things I see when it comes to the 485. It does appear easier, obviously, than sort of your more employer-sponsored visas, less document-intensive, but still very important that you're putting the right documents in at the right time.
So DIY is risky. Always take professional help because it's about your future. If you're really serious about it, avoid DIY. Take professional help.
Right. And how often are you getting clients who are coming last minute and freaking out like their visa is going to run away like next week or something? Do you get clients as such?
Oh yeah, definitely. Look, I get plenty of clients giving me a call and you can hear the panic in their voices from their situation. And it is really sad to see. Usually they've been, led astray by a previous provider that's sort of told them or given them some assurances. Oh yeah, you're going to be eligible for XYZ in November. November comes, they're not eligible or they're not able to represent them anymore. And now all of a sudden they've got 8 days left on their visa and we've got to be able to make a move in that situation. I think that with our clients that we have, I always like to have them prepared well in advance of whenever their sort of lodgement date is or whenever their eligibility date is. And we like to have things prepared 6 months, 12 months in advance. And I think when those clients do come to us last minute, we're obviously able to help them. But I always tell people, if you've got a couple months left on your visa and you don't have an idea as to what the next step is, reach out as soon as possible, please. Try not to leave it to the last couple of days because...
Yeah. What at JICS, our aim simply is, to educate first, not to convert first. So that's the motto that we work with. It's about educating first and not converting first, if you're talking here, it's not about views. It's we genuinely wanting people to kind of, understand, the requirements. They could be, facing different challenges for different sets of people. They need to understand what pitfalls they might face, etc. So we prepare them for that in advance, right? That's what we do, and make them understand the entire, canvas. It can be difficult. It can be daunting, right? For people kind of, facing that their visa is going to expire soon, what to do. It's a tough situation to be in.
We've had people come to us on a Friday and, we need to action something either by the Saturday or the Sunday, and the team, Amit and Safa, they work on the weekend to make it happen. So it's, but obviously that's not the ideal situation. Ideally, you want to engage early, be prepared, and let us handle it without that pressure. But
and then we understand as well with our team, these are people's lives that we're dealing with. It's not a small issue of
Basketball can come
second. My Friday night plans, whatever they are, they can be held off. I'm sure my friends won't mind me being a bit late. But yeah, I understand. We're dealing with people's lives. These are serious matters, and you've got to deal with it with that level of seriousness. I think it gets reflected when we get the results, when we get those positive results for people. how thankful they are knowing that you've changed their lives. I mean, that's all the job satisfaction you could ask for.
I mean, one thing that I really fail to understand is like, I know so many people who's been here for almost a decade, but they are functioning with such less confidence about themselves that they can get a PR, Like they're just going from one student visa to another. Like, do you get clients as such?
Yeah, look, I think this was more common in the past few years, but I think the government's now really cracking down on this, and it was called visa hopping. That was the terminology, and the government's gone very strict on that and phasing that out. And I think people also are now understanding that visa hopping is no longer a viable option, and they need to actually, either get their permanent residency or get into a work sponsorship visa that has a pathway towards PR. Otherwise, they're going to have to unfortunately go back and relocate somewhere else. So I think the government's really come down pretty hard on that in the last 1 year or so.
That's exactly right. I mean, the changes in regulation and policy based on people sort of just hopping from sort of student visa to student visa has really been cracked down on. That's why I think it's very important to have that strategy in place, whether it's going from your student visa to your graduate visa to a work visa and to PR. So that's your usual sort of pathway, but depending on what your personal circumstances are, we might employ a different sort of strategy for you. I think it's really important to sort of get that in place now more than ever, that, you can't just always rely on hopping back onto a student visa. And even if you do, I mean, the cost of doing that is so high.
The time,
the cost of paying for that course that you're doing, which we know, those international student visas can be quite high for a lot of courses. So we try to make sure that we're putting you into a strategy which is helping you avoid all of that extra cost, all of that extra delay, and getting you to sort of your PR or citizenship or whatever you're looking for sooner rather than later.
Right. So you guys think that it's about like the circle or the community, what they are doing, and you're just getting influenced by that and probably not pushing yourself outside.
Well, again, if you're relying on, your friends and your neighbors for expert immigration advice, then, you're going to get misinformation. That's just part of the process. Unless they're an expert in the industry, they're not able to assess and guide you the way a professional lawyer would. And that's where, that's the difference.
Exactly right. I mean, everyone wears a different size shoe. I mean, just because it's comfortable for one person doesn't mean it's going to fit for the other person. And just because a strategy works for one person, your circumstances could be different, even slightly different. You might have a very different strategy to what they had. I think that's the message that I try to put into clients' heads when I speak to them. And when I explain what their strategy is and how it's different from maybe their friend's situation, they can then understand, okay, look, I have to pivot away from that and I have to go down this strategy and this pathway in order to get to my...
The friend comes more.
Yeah. It does. Well, that's one of the main questions I get when I give advice. I get, but my friend said that I'm doing this. I'm like, well, your friend is in a different occupation. Your friend has got a different qualification, and that's the reason that's available to them. To you, this other option is available. It'll still get you to PR in the same amount of time, but it's just a different pathway to what your friend might have done.
And the immigration laws keep changing. What's on the priority list keeps changing. Where, action is being taken versus not being taken keeps changing. So the friend might have done something 2 years ago, but it's completely different now. And so it's not applicable anymore.
All right, enough of the friends. Let's talk about the clients. If I ask each of you, again, to close our amazing podcast today, if you could remember some lines when you heard your clients getting the PR, just if you could just copy or imitate them.
Okay, well, I can off the top of my head, I can remember an example of it was a subsequent entrant visa we were working on. So that means when a person has a visa here already approved and they're looking to bring their family across as well. So it was a gentleman who'd been here in Australia for about 5 years, and his wife and children were overseas, and he wasn't able to see them for a while. And I sent him the approval for the subsequent entrant for his wife and his 2 children to finally be able to join him. And he sent me one line back in an email, which was very nice. He said, "Thank you, Amit. You've made me the happiest man in Australia." So I thought that was a nice message to receive on a Friday afternoon. And he's here with his family now, and they've all got their PR in process. So very happy with that result, and hopefully that comes through soon.
Rishi, one line.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people see. I don't. I'm not the front-facing guy when people get their visas. But from my personal experience, I can say that I got really emotional. I got overwhelmed when I got my PR, and in fact, I got my PR in a very short time. It was a long time back, but then yeah, it was. I mean, I couldn't believe it for at first, and then
Were you looking at it for a while? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was. I actually couldn't believe it, and then when it kind of sunk in, I really, because there's a lot of effort that went into it, a lot of finances,
time and
yeah.
patience.
And then when you see something, seeing the light of day and your efforts, come to fruition, it's good. I mean, it was a very, very happy and an emotional day for me.
It's like the universe is aligning.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It gets overwhelming. That depends. I'm not. I don't know. There'll be only a few people who might just not get in because they've put in so much effort.
And you made it as the culmination of all this efforts, through all their schooling, all of their work, everything they've had in their experience in their life so far has all led up to this.
Yeah, you've taken a decision to do something, and there's a lot of energy that went behind it, right? And when you see success, obviously you'll feel happy.
And it's that affirmation as well that the Australian government, the Australian community is
Yeah.
as a permanent member of their society. I think that's a very validating feeling for anyone as well.
Absolutely.
And I think both areas that we work in, job search and immigration, it's the same feeling for people. Like they'll really remember it, even if it's 5 or 10 years down the track.
But I really need you to tell me the one or two lines.
Look, the story, I would say probably, I met this person after maybe about 5 years that I'd worked with, a long time ago. And when I met him, he remembered me, and I didn't remember him, to be honest, because, obviously so many clients and so many interactions.
Honest.
And then he just came to me and he said, because of you, like my life really changed direction. And the fact that he remembered that, and he had about 5 or 6 friends, and he kept telling all of them, which was a little bit embarrassing because, in that situation. But he was really, like, I could see the genuine happiness that he still had from something that happened so many years ago. And I think that's what we all work for, and that's what we want to, make a difference at the end of the day.
Right. So that's all that we work for. We want to make a difference. We want to smile, like Amit mentioned, on a Friday night, and then, go back to our lives. Thank you all for watching this episode, and stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.